Welcome. We are the Baja Four. We are the four congregations that make up Southern Arizona, from Sky Island to Amado to the east and northwest side of Tucson. We are so glad you are with us wherever you are, whenever you're watching this, in the future, in the present. Welcome. Welcome to the moment we're in now, a moment of fall 2021, a precipice of holidays and holy days, COVID continuing, regathering together slowly, regathering together with anticipation, regathering together with anxiety, still feeling the distance. You find us in the midst of an arc, a story we are telling about coming to tables. 2 weeks ago, Reverend Bethany brought us to setting the table of Universalism, what brings us here. Today, we stay at the table, what helps us stay present when things are hard. And in future services, we'll learn about what it means to build a bigger table, and then what it means to clean up after ourselves. But today, here and now, stay. Come with us as we practice staying, where we say we belong, where we say we want to gather, where we say it's important to be our families, our congregations, our communities, this world. Throughout our service today, I invite you to imagine the tables that have nourished you, but also the tables that have challenged you. We will look to resource you, offer you some words and music and practices and perspectives that might help you stay a little longer. Or perhaps it will help you shift from feeling stuck at a table to choosing to be there, to enter the human relationships that matter to you, and to find out what you want to learn and how you want to grow amidst them. Welcome. Come. Let us stay together.
We are the Baja Four, representing Unitarian Universalists across Southern Arizona. Though we come from different places, we share a common covenant of our Unitarian Universalist principles.
I bring sand from the east side of Tucson, which is home to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tucson.
May we be grounded by this earth.
I bring air from the Santa Rita Mountains, which stand tall to the east of Borderlands Unitarian Universalist.
May we be enlivened by this air.
I bring water from the San Pedro River, which flows up from Mexico to nourish the land and all its creatures around Sky Island Unitarian Universalist Church.
May we be nourished by this water. I bring fire, source of all creation, from Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist congregation, symbolizing the hot sun of our Sonoran desert.
May we be inspired by this fire.
From this land, this air, these waters, this fire, we know that we are part of a great interdependent web of creation that holds us all. As Unitarian Universalists, we gather together as the Baja Four to acknowledge our interdependence with one another and with the whole earth.
Hey everyone, we are here to continue the grappling that we started with 2 weeks ago, where the four ministers brought to you what we've been holding about land acknowledgement and what we imagine the future to be of land acknowledgement in the Baja Four, but also how that might move through into the individual congregations and our own lives and other organizations. And we asked you to grapple, and you have been grappling. We have been receiving your grapplings, and it has been wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I have received some longer emails with people reflecting on their own thoughts. I've received links of folks finding resources in the community that inspire them or help clarify for them some of the complexity of land acknowledgement. We also received this amazing beginning of a proposal from some leaders at Mountain Vista of wanting to study together and do a kind of learning journey about the Indigenous stories and realities and present of Tucson. So it's been really wonderful to see where people are going with their grapples.
Yeah, I've been hearing that at UUCT too. I've got some of those long emails that really thoughtful. I really appreciated the thoughtfulness and the time that people took to respond and then responding and engaging in the conversation. A few people in their emails and conversations to me, I wonder, Sam, if this was similar in your congregation, were really mentioned or were circling around the word stolen. And someone said, it startles me to hear that. And I was like, well, it should, right? It should startle us to hear that, as well as colonization and genocide, which are in our Baja for land acknowledgement. There was an interesting perspective wondering where the concept of stolen came from, because it feels more attached to a Western concept of land ownership rather than a typically more indigenous understanding of stewardship of the land, of not ownership, but being in relationship with the land. So I thought it made me trace back in my mind, where does the language of stolen come from? Is it just white folks' perspective on this or colonizer perspective on this, or is this indigenous perspectives? And in my memory, at least, it's both. The language has come from both indigenous voices, the perception that land was stolen, as well as allies, white and colonizer allies, using that language to remind us of the genocide and colonization we're not peaceful actions, and we're not relational actions.
I saw people really grappling with clashes in paradigm. That when we talk about land acknowledgements, we're having to hold up multiple paradigms and kind of grapple with the fact that there isn't just one that we're experiencing. And the theme too of how do you learn an accurate history? And then once you know a more complex, accurate story,
what does it actually look like for there to be a kind of justice or repair? And what does relationship look like? So I think something that we wanted to celebrate and continue to invite is how many people are just taking responsibility for their own learning. That sometimes we hit these cultural moments and we think, somebody tell me. And there's so many resources online. There's so many resources in our own community. So gratitude for the responsibility we take to learn and the labor to learn, but also learning in community. So it's the learning journey we take individually is meaningful, but then when we bring it into our community spaces and we learn together, we can move together. So keep grappling. We're welcoming. Email your ministers more of your grapplings. Grapple with what we just said. Share what you're hopeful about and inspired by, and we'll keep bringing it back to you.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. When I was sinking down, sinking down, sinking down, when I was sinking down, sinking down, when I was sinking down beneath my sorrows drowned, friends to me gathered round. Oh my soul, oh my soul, friends to me gathered round. Oh my soul, to love and to all friends I will sing, I will sing. To love and to all friends I will sing. To love and to all friends who pain and sorrow win, with thanks unto the end I will sing, I will sing. With thanks unto the end I will sing. What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. Some of us anticipate holiday gatherings in person or on Zoom with family or with other communities in the weeks ahead. Some of us may not gather with other people for the holidays, but may encounter other people. And some of those encounters are lovely, and some of them will be hard. We invite you to take a moment to prepare for those times ahead. If we decide to stay in a challenging visit if we decide it's not too abusive to remain? Can we prepare ourselves to be ready, to stay strong, to remain whole, even when we choose to stay in conflict? As the Dutch priest Henry Nouwen, who knew a lot about group living, says, community is the place where the person you least want to live with lives. That person is always in your community somewhere, and in the eyes of others, you might be that person. Community living and gathering is not always easy. Nouwen has some suggestions for how to prepare ourselves for entering a group. He recommends that we find solitude before community. If we do not know that we are the beloved, we're going to expect someone else to make us feel that way. They cannot. We'll expect someone to give us that perfect, unconditional love. But community is not loneliness, grabbing on to loneliness. I'm so lonely and you're so lonely. It's solitude, grabbing on to solitude. I am the beloved. You are the beloved. Together, we can build a home. Nouwen worked to know that he was beloved before he'd enter a gathering. He didn't find it easy to do so. He admits that personally, as my struggle reveals, I don't often feel like a beloved, but I know that this is my most primal identity, and I know that I must choose it above and beyond my hesitations. So every time he went into a group of people, he'd look in the mirror and remind himself of that primal identity and claim it again. I invite you to join with me now, preparing for the season ahead by beginning with a few deep breaths. And now I invite you to imagine a table before you, a table from your past in which you felt fully accepted, nourished, loved. Or imagine a table you hope to find where there's laughter, conversation, humor, a lovely, accepting silence, peace. Can you see the plates in front of you? Can you smell the food? Can you hear the conversation around you? Do you feel at home? Now I invite you to remember a table from your past that held some tension, that harbored conflict, or to imagine one in the future that you foresee being difficult. Again, do you hear the plates and the tough conversation? If you choose to stay, I invite you to take a deep breath and come home to yourself right now. There may not be a mirror at this place setting, but you can look down at a hand or the top of a knee, part of your arm, you can move your shoulders back and take a deep breath. The hand may be spotted, the knee stiff, the breath ragged, but this is all part of you. These parts are not perfect, but they are you, and they are loved. You are beloved. Feel that in the hands that touch rough cloth or cool counter or slippery oilcloth. Feel that in your shoulders and in every breath you take. You are beloved. Claim solitude. Claim beauty. Claim that you are loved. No one can take away the fact you are beloved. No person, no argument. May this help you. Stay in the challenge. Face the conflict. Swimming in love for yourself and for the others in the room, at the table. Your solitude invites their solitude. Your worthiness values theirs. Maybe there is more room to be together in difference, more room for all there to be. Whatever happens, if you choose to stay or must leave, if you come back to yourself or find it too hard, I hope you will leave feeling some kind of arrival, some homecoming. In the words of Raymond Carver's late fragment, "And did you get what you wanted from this life even so? I did. And what did you want? To call myself beloved, to feel myself beloved on the earth."
Recently, a friend of mine told me this story, and it is with deep appreciation and gratitude for them and their family that I share it with you today. Here it is. My friend and their family went out to dinner. It was them and their spouse and their older children and their own mother and father. The grandfather, we'll call him grandfather, started the meal by treating the young woman who was their server inconsiderately, shall we say. I don't know the details of this particular incident, but you've seen people do it. They ignore the server or they laugh at them if they make a mistake. In this case, the grandfather made comments about the woman's body. I don't know what he said, and this far removed probably doesn't matter. What is important is that those kinds of comments are not appropriate. Anyone who has worked in food service knows how frequent and how upsetting these kinds of comments are. The person who is being commented on often feels belittled, disrespected, and like nothing more than a thing. Anyway, throughout this meal, the family sat with a mixture of irritation and embarrassment as the grandfather's comments on the server continued. The dinner and the mistreatment went on, and it was clear that some members of the family were getting really uncomfortable. The oldest son, we'll call him Darius, that's not his real name, made some protests about grandfather's behavior throughout the meal, but nothing changed. Towards the end of the meal, as the family was getting ready to settle the bill, and after another set of comments, grandfather actually touched the server. Again, the details of what he did don't matter. What matters is what happened next. While much of the family was in their own stress and de-stress about how to respond, Darius slammed his fist on the table and he said, "We do not treat people that way." Grandfather replied, "If you don't like how I behave, you can leave the table." Darius calmly and firmly replied, "I won't leave this table. This is my table, and we don't treat people that way here." I don't know how it ended. And even though this story is short, there's a lot there. When things get difficult, a lot of us find ourselves in the position of the family members, uncomfortable and unsure how to interrupt a situation that is clearly wrong. Or we're the server, being treated badly with few allies and few ways to advocate for ourselves. I wonder, though, when you've been in a position to be Darius. When have you said through your words or your actions that bad behavior will not be tolerated and I will not give it a pass through my own silence? When have you been able to stay at the table with someone you disagreed with in order to express your own convictions?
I had a spiritual director once who facilitated a small group circle of us who were all in their direction. And they used to begin all of our gatherings with these words from Raymond Carver, a poem called Late Fragment. He says these things. "And did you get what you wanted from this life even so?" "I did." "And what did you want?" "To call myself beloved, to feel myself beloved on the earth." Now, the cool thing about the spiritual director was that they were also a potter. And so they brought their group under their direction a big stack of pots that they had made, all similar in form, and we would be drawn to the one we wanted to have and to hold. And they designed them in a very specific way. I still have mine. Some of you who are potters might be able to see more about this than I could. It's very thin, and each of them was, different colors on the inside, different colors on the outside. And the practice was this, that as we sat in our contemplative time together, they would invite us to hold our bowls, just like this, to hold our space, just like this, as we sat. So as we sat, we would hold these, and this group gathered in Northern California, just outside San Francisco, so it was always cold. We were always bundled up, but we would sit there as a circle of solitudes, holding our space among each other. And as we sat, the miracle of these pots was that the space inside would begin to warm. And you could tell physically that just by holding the space, we warmed the space. And we'd sit kind of with the magical sense that when you touched your fingers to the inside of the bowl, it's even happening right now, you had generated warmth. This was our spiritual practice, the practice of holding space, knowing ourselves beloved amidst other people, not because of other people, but among them. Now, there are challenges for us each in our own homes. We exist at challenging tables. Some of you are going to gather and have gathered at incomplete tables, tables where there are perhaps alienations, cut-offs, estrangements, folks that can't be there, won't be there. Some of you are at fragmented tables, places where there are disagreements and disappointments, frustrations. Even though everyone's there, they're not really there, or they've kept each other at a distance. And some of you are just at fatigued tables, tables of people tired of going through what we've gone through, holding some of the challenges and pains and frustration of such a long time living with a grander anxiety. And so I propose with today's service at staying at the table that the tables that we need to stay at are not necessarily the ones out there with those people who feel really, really different than me, but are probably closer at home, even in your own bubble, your life, your congregation, your family, where connection is not easy. And if you were to sit long enough, difference arrives. And so I offer you staying at the table 101, and want to say that staying at a table where there is difference and difficulty is less about tactics or tricks and is more about a posture and a knowing of your belonging. Now, this is a spiritual discipline for those of you who are spiritual, and this is an ethical discipline for those of you who seek to be more human. But imagine fully taking a place at the table and feeling yourself warm and wide and deep. That knowing is the source by which you sit for the posture. And if you know the source, not a tactic, not a strategy, not a trick, a knowing and a posture, I think it is possible to shift from a feigned and forced politeness at challenging tables into a place where we live and sit kind of gripped by the widest embrace of the world. That we come to a table, not because we have to, and I'm going to try to be nice, and I want to be a good person, and I want to do it right, but we come to the table embodying a felt sense of deep belonging. And that's universalism. That is what we said 2 weeks ago, that universalism is the truth that the world is not so easily offended or knocked off center by humans being human. And if the world is not easily offended, and it's not an easily offended place, perhaps you don't have to be either. And if the world holds all of us, then there might not actually be pressure on you to feel out or be the arbiter of who's right and who's wrong, or who's going to do it right, and if I did it perfectly. And if the world is a place of ultimate belonging, then it actually frees you. It frees you to love yourself and then let your love spill over and out and onto the complicated tables of human relatedness. And the table of human relatedness is a place of infamous food fights. But if you are held, if you come to the table held, convicted in the warmth of your undeniable belonging, the sense that you are held and loved and known and supported, no matter how the food flies, then it is less likely that any of that will stick on you. And if any does, then at least it'll be just enough that you'll be able to deal with and not for long. And maybe even the well-placed crumb or stain will make you more endearing and cause everyone at the table to laugh. Why would you laugh at a conflicted table? Because we are not asking one another to be the source of our deepest belonging and value. When we hand each other, when we hand anyone else responsibility for our deepest belonging, we have misplaced something. Yes, you and I are a place where we practice belonging. We are a place where we manifest more of it, certainly, and very importantly, small groups are places where we strengthen belonging and we actually experience it in fleshy ways in the care of one another. It's where our belonging is stretched and tested and then torn and then repaired and then deepened. But you are not the source of my belonging. There is nothing you could do or say that could take away my sense that I profoundly belong to this world. And that's universalism. Universalism says, ain't no one sending you to hell. No one. No matter how bad they wished it in your family or your work or your congregation, no matter how much disagreement there is or how much disappointment there is, neither of you has the power to outcast the other from their belonging in the world. And that even goes into no matter how homophobic they are, or sexist they are, or exclusive they are, or racist they are, they don't have the power to cast you out. And neither do you. Casting out and determining who is in and out is not your job. Hell and condemnation and exile is not our shared belief about the nature of the world. Our practice says that we belong to and in this world, that we are held in a wide and loving embrace. Now, the loving and warm, wide embrace, the theological mechanics of which are yours to discern, but the multiplicity of our mechanics contributes to this outcome. No one has power over your belonging. No one can force you from the table of belonging. This is our table, and we are stuck with each other. You belong here, and so do they. So this staying at the table 101 is a good place to start. It's not a small task, and when we are grounded and sourced in this posture of belonging, it is difficult to stay there. But if we can, I think we show up differently. And the tactics for dealing with difference and disagreements just seem to matter less. How you maneuver a conversation where there's, like a political difference or a disagreement about the way it was or the history of the family, suddenly the tactics and the strategies matter less because your belonging isn't at stake based on the conversation you have at a table. And when your belonging is not at stake because you know it so deeply for yourself and the others, then you have space to do things differently. It means you don't have to waste energy proving how right you are or winning or proving anything or making sure that person understands something or changing someone. All of those strategies are actually about our discomfort, our desire to feel some alignment that our worldview is shared with someone else, ultimately pointing to a longing that our belonging is secured. And the goal becomes maybe that the way I show up at the table, fully, completely of belonging and love of myself with a little extra, that in knowing myself beloved, feeling myself beloved on the earth, I offer that knowing straight up to the other people around me. Now, I know some of you are feeling the fault lines and disagreements and differences in the tables you gather around. I know some of you are looking into these coming months, feeling the disconnections and the estrangements and the absences. For those of you who are aching, sitting with the pain of estrangement, I offer you one resource, a book called Fault Lines, Fractured Families and How to Mend Them by Pilimer. It's a book that includes 1,600 surveys and 270 interviews with real people who've moved through the complexity of family estrangements and out of the shame, the unspeakability of the complexity of being in family relationships. Now, I've valued this book because I live in family and friendships that are estranged. I have some that are actively still estranged now, but I do have one that moved from an estrangement to a rearrangement in my life, and that one that I had guides me to this day in staying at a table. Now, this was an estrangement that had impacted my life through my teenage years and my young adult years, and it wasn't until I was training to become a minister that I had a couple of moments that allowed a freedom and an opening to occur. It was a strange combination. I was working as a chaplain in a hospital and a prison, and I was also accompanied by a small group of people who were helping me be better at chaplaincy. That group, that small group, were also studying to be chaplains and healers, and we were guided by a mentor and spiritual director. So there I was, meeting people and families who were at the end of their lives or at the beginning of a second chance in their lives. And something about that, the alchemy of being with those people and the alchemy of being in a small group that mirrored back and practiced belonging with me, led to an aha. An aha that the reality of my life is so finite, with the aha that belonging and love is so present if I choose it, that it loosened a grip in my heart about an estrangement that had been impacting me for quite some time, where there had been disagreement and disappointment and dissatisfaction in a family relationship. And something about the alchemy of, wow, life is so finite, with wow, I am infinitely loved and belong to this world. That something in the crack of that made space for me to try something new. And up until that time, I had felt so angry that this family member hadn't asked to listen to me or understand my opinion about something. I felt so stuck that they weren't showing up the way that I wanted them to show up and felt like I needed them to show up. But somewhere in that moment, something loosened. I remember sitting with my spiritual director and having this aha. So much so that after the conversation with her, I ran out into the grass patio where we would gather, and I was standing on this Los Angeles street corner, kind of in this sunshine. And after years and years of not speaking to this person, I reached for my cell phone, I found their number, and I called them. I had no clue what I would say, but the opening was seized in me, and I went for it. When they picked up the call, the first words out of their mouths, "Did you butt dial me?" And I got to reply, "No, this is on purpose." I think this is the power and potential of claiming our universalism. This is our religious heritage, and it's very cool. That you know yourself beloved, that you feel yourself beloved on the earth, so much so that you walk around warm, reminding others that nothing could forsake them, not even you.
When I hear your voice, I almost cry. And when you laugh, it makes me sigh. When I read your words, I wonder why we're together now, more than ever now.
And though distant you may seem to be, you really aren't so far from me. I can feel you here right where I am. If you close your eyes, maybe you can.
Sing to me now, sing me a song, the one where the mountains and the sky come crumbling down, and still we stand side by side. When I see your face, oh, how you shine, a precious light, a star divine.
How your beauty just reflects back mine. Hold out your heart like a lifeline.
Sing to me now, sing me a song, the one where the mountains and the sky come crumbling down, and still we stand side by side. I say to you now, I sing you a song, the one where the mountains and the sky come crumbling down, and still we stand side by side. Side by side.
As I extinguish this chalice and we go forth, remember the advice of Henry Nouwen about healthy community. It is solitude grabbing onto solitude. I am the beloved, You are the beloved. Together we can build a home. And as Nouwen warns, sometimes you are close, and that is wonderful. Sometimes you don't feel much love, and that is hard. But we can be faithful. We can build a home together and create space. No matter how successful you are at building that communal home this holiday season, I hope you come home to yourself. In a paraphrase of those lovely words from Late Fragment by Raymond Carver, I invite you to call yourself beloved, to feel yourself beloved on this earth.